The following message was preached at the pulpit of the North Platte Baptist Church during the Midwest Regional Bus Conference.
I was working on this message, and I was thinking to myself, I bet a lot of our points are going to be similar. Now he kind of went over how to revive a bus route, and a lot of times that takes some, extra work. That takes some big days. That takes some hard labor. But sometimes I think one of the things that we forget is that the bus ministry really is made up of a lot of little days. And one of the reasons a lot of bus routes fail is because we don't do what it takes to stay faithful in between those high days. Yeah. We've got those big days where you got the bus packed, your spirit's high, and then you've got those days where you can't seem to get anybody on the bus. And it's like, what's going on here? But you got to know how to navigate both days in order to be faithful in the bus ministry, because those bus kids need you to be faithful in the big days and in the little days. Both of those things are important. John chapter 6 and verse 16. John chapter 6 in verse 16, it says this, "And when even was now come, his disciples went down unto the sea, and entered into a ship, and went over the sea toward Capernaum. And it was now dark, and Jesus was not come to them. And the sea arose by reason of a great wind that blew. So when they had rowed about 25 or 30 furlongs, they see Jesus walking on the sea, and drawing nigh unto the ship. And they were afraid. But he saith unto them, It is I, be not afraid. Then they willingly received him into the ship, and immediately the ship was at the land whither they went." Let's pray. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for the message. Thank you for the truth of your word. I pray that you bless us this morning. Help us to learn something. In your name, amen. If you want to know approximately how long an animal is going to live, it's an interesting fact. You just have to calculate their heartbeats per minute. The average animal will have about 800 million heartbeats for their lifetime. That's about an average. So a mouse, that little thing that's running around, its heartbeat, it's got 700 heartbeats per minute. So you calculate that, those little mice, they only live about 3 years. Whereas a hummingbird has over 1,200 heartbeats per minute. However, at nighttime, that hummingbird's heartbeat rate falls all the way down to 50. And that hummingbird will live twice as long as that mouse will live. Even more so, an elephant, those large mammoth animals, their heartbeat is all the way down at 35 beats per minute, and they live up to 80 years of age. When it comes to the bus ministry, a lot of times it depends on your heartbeat. Now, there are times where you should increase your heartbeat. This is not an advocate for never exercising or working out. That's a great idea, though. Doctor, I don't work out. I want to use all my heartbeats up, It's not how it works. But unfortunately, there are times where we should increase our heartbeat. But there are also times that we should have a steady, consistent heartbeat. And if we're trying just to have a big days every single week and trying to pack the bus out every single week, you're gonna die. Physically, spiritually, your bus worker is going to be worn out. Your bus kids are going to be worn out. And you'll be on fire for a few weeks. But then before you know it, you'll be done. There's a term called plotting. Plotting. It's not generally really thought of as anything exciting. It's thought of as if you conjure up in your mind somebody plodding through snow, their legs knee deep in snow, maybe in a desert, and they're just working real slow. They're not running a sprint. They're not dashing through. It's just a slow plod, one after the other. It kind of reminded me, it was kind of funny, that bus hood that's at the other property that they're preaching behind. Every year we use that for the bus conference, and we keep it out at our camp. Well, it had snowed, I don't know, about a month or so ago, quite a bit. I mean, it was out there. There were drifts that are over 1.5 feet deep, and we had thought that maybe it had melted enough. And so when we got out there, we had to literally shovel just to get the gate open. And it's about a mile long just to get to where the chapel's at, where the gate opens up. And we could not, even with a 4-wheel truck, we could not get through. And I got my truck stuck. So Peter, me, Brother JT, we were standing there. We're like, we've got to get this hood. And we're like, well, there's only one option. We don't want to do it, but there's only one option. We got to trek this on foot. And so we started We got out. We started going through the hills. It took us a while just to get to where the bus hood was at, and it was really irritating because the snow, because it had somewhat melted and then refroze and melted and refroze. It had a soft layer on top and then a hard layer and a soft layer hard, and you could walk on top of it sometimes, but then your foot would just randomly sink 1.5 feet. And so we got out there, we got the bus hood, and we put it on our backs, and we had to carry it all the way back to the truck. And I mean, talk about plodding. That's what it was. We weren't running. We had to stop a few times. We had to rest, pick it back up, and keep going. Thankfully, we got it. We put it on the platform. But when I think about plodding, that's what it is. Plodding is a faithful, dedicated, monotonous, but you're moving forward slowly. And that's what it is with the bus ministry. The bus ministry, sometimes you got to plod. Sometimes you have to be willing to take your time and be willing to be very steadfast in your actions. Plodding, the definition means to work or to act perseveringly or monotonously, to drudge, the act of moving or walking heavily and slowly, making laborious progress. That key word there is progress. You have to still progress in where you're going. A lot of times, one of the reasons bus ministries fails is they get so lax, they never have any big days. Their buses die. They don't have any big promotions. They don't have any, I'm going 5 hours today. I'm going to do more than what I normally do. They have no push, and so there's no progress. And they just relax, say, I'm in a small town. Trust me, I know the excuses. We're in a small town. We're in a small area. A lot of the bus kids that I see on my route, 83 West, not even bus kids, a lot of the kids that I see, I'll be driving by, and I'll see kids in the distance. I'll be like, I'm gonna jump out and sign them up. I get closer, and you know what I'll do? Oh, I remember them. I tried to sign them up 3 weeks ago. It happens in a small area. You don't have as many people, and a lot of us come from different areas, maybe bigger areas, maybe smaller areas, and you recognize people that you're trying to sign up. And it can be difficult, but you have to be willing to keep progressing and keep plodding, because every day in the bus ministry is not a big day. It takes time. Now, in our text passage, it says that the disciples had gone into the boat and started rowing. The lake that they were rowing across was about 7 miles wide. And the Bible says when they got about 20 or 30 furlongs in, which is about halfway, that's about 2 to 3 miles in, they were hit with a storm. Right in the center of the lake. They were hit with a storm, tempestuous wind, waves crashing around. But what does it say they were doing? Rowing. What were they doing? They were rowing. They were plodding along. And what happened as they were rowing, as they were plodding along? It says they looked up, and who did they see? They saw Jesus. Jesus looked at them, and first off, they got scared. But what did Jesus say? He says, "It is I, be not afraid." And then it says they welcomed him into their boat willingly. They wanted him to come in. And then Jesus got in. But what I'm wondering is, would Jesus have ever gotten in the boat if they were not rowing, plodding away in the first place? What if they got to the middle of the lake and it got hard, the wind started blowing? Have you ever tried to, I was in a paddle boat at our camp a couple years ago, and I think I was with my brother. I don't remember, but we were trying to get across from where our shore is at to the other side, and we were rowing, and then we got hit by a bunch of wind and a bunch of waves, and I mean, we're paddling. I think it was kayaks, actually. We were in kayaks, and we're paddling, and it feels like you aren't going nowhere. But if you stop, you go backwards. So there was no choice. All we could do is keep rowing, and it took us 3 times as long to get across. When we got across, we were exhausted. But these guys, they got in the middle. They didn't just stop, throw their oars away, and go, "Oh well, this is useless." I don't think Jesus would have helped them. What happens in the bus ministry? We come to bus conference, we get excited, we go on fire. I'm gonna go put these things to practice. We go home, we put some games together. We have some big promotions. We go bus visiting the first Saturday. We're excited, and then we have 3 on the bus. And the wind hits us, and the waves crash. And then we're like, I don't know. So we pump ourselves up. We go out the second week. We come up with another big promotion. We go out and we buy extra, just in case. And our entire promotion goes in the box. I know what it's like. But you got to keep rowing. You got to keep plodding, because what if those disciples stopped? You know what they did? They kept rowing. And when Jesus showed up, he wanted to get in that boat. And when he got in that boat, a miraculous thing happened. What does it say? As soon as he got in that boat, they didn't stay where they were at, did they? They succeeded. They went to where they were going immediately. The Bible uses the word immediately. The problem with most of our bus ministers, the reason we die, is because when things get rough, we stop before we have a chance to let God get in. And we have to learn to keep moving forward. Little is much. Little is much. You know what that means? The little days are just as important as the big days. This Sunday, when you go back, if you have a bus, if you have a van, I don't care how many kids you've got, whatever you have, this Sunday is a big day to you. And you ought to treat it like a big day. Now, I'm not saying that every single Saturday you should go out bus visiting until you got blisters on your feet. Let's be realistic, guys. I know we all have jobs. This bus conference is great. We pump us up, yeah! But I know what it's like on Saturday. You wake up, you're tired. You don't want to talk to nobody until you had your Dunkin', right? I was laughing at Brother Joshua. He said we're usually out by 10:30. They got bus meeting starting at 9 with their bus captains, and then their main bus meeting at 10. They're out there at 10:30. I was back there. I was like, yeah, we're usually about at Dunkin' about 10:30. We have bus meeting at 10, and then pretty much everybody goes and gets coffee because we're all drained. We're tired, so we get ourselves caffeined up, and then we go out. But the key is keep plodding on. Keep rowing. Keep going. But here's the thing. How do we do it? How do we do it? Now, listen, there's no virtue in plodding with no direction. We've got a lot of plodders that aren't going nowhere. I've been to many churches, and I've been on different bus routes where they're working, they're there, they're faithful, but they're not doing nothing. They're not going anywhere. They're happy with 2. They're happy with 3. They don't care. There's no virtue in that. That's not what the disciples were doing. They were headed a direction. They were trying to revive their bus route. And if your bus route's dying or you're having trouble with your youth department, when you go back home, you should take what he gave you and you should put it to practice. And then you should desire and say, you know what, I'm going to plod forward, progress. I'm going to keep moving forward, no matter how difficult it is. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to give you some keys to faithfully plod in your ministries. To faithfully plod. Now, I was doing a little bit of math before a bus conference. I didn't even realize. But I became a bus captain, I think, when I was 16 years old. And so it's just been over 10 years now that I've been a bus captain. Now, I've seen, in the small area, I've seen days where we've had 3. I've seen days where we've had 67 on our bus, which, brother, 67 on our bus is like 150 and your guys there. I mean, it's just like the clouds parted and God came down and put them on our bus. Like, hallelujah, you know. But I've been in the exciting days where we're averaging 30 and 35, and we're excited. But I've also been in the days where it's low. But for the most part, our bus mission, my bus route, 83 West, has pretty much always averaged in the 20s. How does that happen? You have to learn how to plod faithfully, even when no one's here. When you don't have a bus conference, when you don't have the workers, when they leave and it's just you, keep on plodding, keep on visiting. Number 1, plod with prayer. Brother Wells hit this one. Plod with prayer. Colossians 4:2 says, continue in prayer. And didn't just say pray. What did it say? Continue in prayer. Because you know what happens, Brother Wells? We plan these big days, and we write it down on our sticky notes. Pray for this number. Pray for these kids. We put it in our cars. We put it on our mirrors. We put it everywhere, and we're constantly thinking about it. We're praying for it. We have the big day. God comes down. We get all those kids. We're excited. And then we don't pray nothing for the next couple of weeks. We don't ever pray. I love what he said. Your bus list is your prayer list. In our bus ministry here, every month we pass out a prayer sheet that's got the list of every single kid that rode on the bus that month. We give it to everybody because you ought to be praying for those bus kids, not just on the big days, but every single day throughout the week. And I cannot express enough how important praying is, because do you realize you cannot reach those bus kids? You're not doing the saving. Those disciples, they were plodding away. They were rowing and rowing. But the only person that could save them and get them to their destination was who? Jesus. Right. So if you do not pray, then you are plodding away with no directive. You're not getting Jesus in on the bus. And you got to get Jesus in on the bus. Number 1, plod with prayer. Number 2, plod with preparation. Plod with preparation. 1 Peter 5:8, we all know this portion of Scripture. Be sober, be vigilant, because your adversary, the devil, as a roaring lion, walketh about seeking whom he may devour. You know what's a shame? We don't take this verse literally in our lives. Not only in our lives, but in our bus ministry. You do realize that Satan is real, and he does not want you to pick up bus kids. Those bus kids, when they come to church, and they get saved, their eternal destination is changed, and Satan's lost. He's going to do everything in his power to stop you. And if you don't take this verse seriously and be sober and vigilant and prepare in your bus ministry, I'm not talking about prepare, pie in the sky, prepare like we know. I'm going to give you some practical things. Your bus maintenance has to be prepared. You know, I see all the time, buses break down in bus ministry because a lot of times we're working with old buses. I understand that. But a lot of times they break down and we're like, oh, Satan got in this bus again. Well, maybe he did, but you didn't stop him. Let's maybe check the oil and Satan won't get in. Maybe put a tire pressure gauge on that. See if maybe we need to inflate a little bit and Satan won't pop it. The problem is we don't prepare because we're not visualizing the fact that somebody doesn't want us to pick up bus kids. It's not easy. The bus ministry is not easy. You see the bus conference, we send out hundreds, maybe even thousands of invites. You look around at the people that actually attend, you know it's not easy to get people to attend a bus conference. Do you know why? One, bus ministry is hard. It's not easy. And then to get you to come to a conference that's just about the bus conference, it's not easy either. But you've got to learn to prepare. And the bus conference, I was telling my wife this morning, I said, man, that last night was great. It encouraged me. It stirred me up. And I told her, I said, I think every bus captain or bus director, really bus worker that is involved, it should be mandatory for them to attend some bus conference during the year because it reminds you what it's all about. But you got to prepare. That means your bus maintenance. You got to prepare your bus maintenance. You know what else that means? I love what he said about the flyers. You can't just forget about flyers. You got to give out flyers to those bus kids. And they can't be like Brother Williams said last night, clip art from the 1990s, okay? Do you want to know? Okay, I'll give this to you. There is something just as easy as clip art. They've converted it. It's called Canva, okay? That's what he was talking about. That online website's got all those templates on there. Easy. And it's first class, and it's sharp. Ascribe ye greatness. I love that. We don't want to give flyers to these kids, and it looks like it, I don't know. I might go. It looks musty and cold and scary. No, it needs to be bright. It needs to be exciting. So take some time. If you're not good with design, find somebody that's good with design. Get on that website. You don't have to know anything, and it will be better. But get your flyers. Make sure they're professional. Visiting. Make sure that you visit. He said he does something consistently. What does he do? He visits his regulars first, and then he goes and finds a new one. You're not going to build your bus route. If your bus route is dying, or if you're just trying to stay faithful with your bus route and your bus attendants or trying to keep it going and growing, you will not grow it, and you will not plod away and keep faithful if you do not have a visiting time. Now, whether that's Thursday or Saturday night, really, it needs to be Saturday because it's the day before. I've tried visiting on Thursday before, and it's great. You're reminded, but they forget by the time Sunday rolls around. You got to be Saturday is a great time, but you should have a set time every single week that you're visiting those kids. You got to be prepared. You got to say, hey, look what we've got with this flyer. We're excited. Promotions. Now, we're not talking about big days, okay? So I'm not talking about everybody that comes this week gets ice cream. That's a big promotion. That's a big promotion because it costs money, okay? But one of the things that I found is you can do things for free that kids enjoy. But you know what it takes? Planning. Games on your bus. If your kids are coming on the bus every single week and it seems like you're having a hard time keeping them, maybe they're not enjoying the time that they're spending. I mean, there's virtue in saying, come for Jesus, all right? But these are kids that don't even have a spiritual walk at all. Even God baits us with mansions and gold and all of those things because he knows we're carnal. The bus kids, there's nothing wrong with saying, come for church for a Twinkie. Just, they should grow from that. They shouldn't just always come to church for a Twinkie. Eventually, they should come to church for Jesus, shouldn't they? But you've got to put some thought into your bus route. When you're on the bus, don't just visit 5 hours and go home, and then when they get on the bus, have nothing to do. I told Brother JT last night. He's one of our bus captains, and he rode the bus last night to pick all the kids up. And I told him, I said, there's gonna be a lot of kids. Do you have balloons? Do you have a game prepared? So pick up some balloons. And they did. And good thing because we had more kids than we've really ever had for a bus conference on that bus. We had over 50 kids. And that's a long time to be on the bus with 50 smelly kids, And if you have nothing to do, like he said, they'll have something to do for you. Yeah. If you don't have a promotion, they'll have their own promotion. So you have to have a plan. Make it interesting. You got to come out of yourself. You're like, go crazy. Shove some Twinkies up your nose or Takis or something, Some Taki things, they love those. I don't know why. I like them too. They're good. But, I mean, they love them. But you got to plan. You got to prepare. If they get on the bus, there's nothing to do. No wonder you can't have regular Sundays in and out with just regular kids because there's nothing for them to do. So you got to plan. Organization. You've got to organize your route. You've got to organize your route. You've got to have a list for your bus captain, or not for your bus captain, for your bus kids and for your bus workers when they visit. There's got to be organization. Don't just show up and be like, okay, guys, we're here. We did it. Bus meeting. Woo! Now what? Oh, you got to have plan. And you got to have organization. Because nothing happens if we don't do things decently and in order. A lot of bus routes, I'll be honest with you, a lot of bus routes just simply die because there's no organization. They are not trained that they need to have a flyer, that they need to visit at a certain time, what they need to say at the door. They're not trained these things, so it's every man does that which is right in his own eyes, and it's a mess. You got to have a plan. You got to be organized. Last thing is setting goals. Not just for the big days. You ought to set goals for the little days. And I'm not being unrealistic. I'm not saying you should every single week say, okay, this week our goal is 35, everybody. Now, there's no problem with that. I would encourage you to do it. But I know it's like, Brother Kyle, when you're in it, a lot of times you don't think about that. You just show up to bus meeting like you always do. But you know what you should do? You should have a goal that's set for your normal days. My goal for our bus route is in the 20s. If we're not in the 20s, it's low. And I need to do something to fix that. So that's faithful, in the 20s. That's what we need, 20s. So that's a goal. But the problem is, a lot of times we've got these big days and all these we're going to have 100, we're going to have it, and then we have it, and then that's it. We don't have any vision. Like he said, we got to have a vision. We got to set these goals. So set goals for your bus route. Set goals for your bus captains. Set goals for your bus kids. Say, hey, if we reach this amount, Brother David's going to shave his head and, put talkies up his nose, whatever. Do what you got to do. But set goals. You going to use that, brother? Not on me. You want to see it, yeah. Set some goals and be exciting constantly. So be prepared. So plod with prayer, plod with preparation. Number 3, plod with perseverance. Plod with perseverance. Galatians 6:9 says, and let us not be weary in well-doing, for in due season we shall reap if what? We faint not. You know what it's saying? If you keep on plodding, you will reap. Too many of us quit the bus ministry before we reap the investment. We try week in, week out, week in, week out, week in, week out, and it doesn't seem like we're making a difference. And then we stop rowing just before Christ shows up. There may be weeks, years, decades that you feel like you're not making a difference. But this word will not return void. Do you know what that means? It's going to return. And you're not in charge of the timetable, of the schedule. You don't know when that's going to happen. All you have to do is be responsible to keep on plodding and persevere. Keep going. Do you know what that takes? You know what the nutshell of this whole bus conference is? You want to have a successful bus ministry? Work. That's what you got to do. You got to work. It's hard. I'm sorry. There's no way to get around it. I wish there was. You just have to persevere. Keep on going forward. Keep on plodding. Work in the difficult times as well as the great times. Not every Sunday is going to be a mountaintop experience. Most of the bus ministry days, most of them are valley experiences. Most of them are drudgery, and you just got to keep going. But you have to persevere because you never know when you're going to make a difference. Sometimes we had a bus kid that actually got in our Christian school. She's 15, I believe. Her name was Alyssa. And she came to the last couple bus conferences. She's been faithful to church, and she has future. Whenever you get that, if you're a small church, whenever you get that, just one, you get excited. Like, man, God can do something for him. She's kind of flighty sometimes, and she'd always be talking about moving and how her dad is going to move them all into a camper, and then they're going to move to she was on my bus route, but she was saying they were going to move to the west side. But a lot of times she would say stuff. But we found out a couple weeks ago in the morning, the teacher of the school, my sister got an email that said, sorry, she's not going to be in school today. We moved to Kansas. Gone. All that investment, all that work, all that vision, all that future that you've got for that young person, especially when you're in the small ministry, it's magnified. Gone. Here's the thing, it's not really gone. Nothing you do for God is gone. I don't know, but that's difficult, and that's going to happen in the bus ministry. What are you going to do when that happens? Throw in the towel, give up, done? You can't. You got to be faithful. You got to say, I'm just going to keep on plodding. I'm just going to keep on working. I'm going to persevere. I'm going to, no matter what it takes. A couple weeks ago, I was a little bit irritated. We were going out, and we were this year on the back wall there. We've got our goal, and the goal is to cover our entire city with bus tracks. Every single door, we want to hit it. And so it's divided into 3 routes because we have three different routes, and we were working on some apartment complexes. And I kid you not, it felt like every single door I knocked on, they were not interested at all. They were just like, I don't want church. You know, I tell people this all the time. It's like sometimes trying to get people in churches, they look at you like you're trying to sell hairballs. That's what they look. It was like they're looking at you like, this is the strangest thing I've ever. It's like, and it doesn't matter what you do. Sometimes you get frustrated. They slam the door on you, whatever, and you're just like, fine, enjoy your life of misery. That's what you want to do. But you can't. You can't. You got to persevere. You got to keep going. But those days are going to come, and those are going to be more days like that, especially in a small area. And I know in bigger areas you got to deal with a lot of liberality and things like that, and it's tough. But even in the small areas, I mean, sometimes you're knocking, and it's like nobody's interested. Or one person that's interested is that kid that you already kicked off the bus 3 weeks ago, you know? It's like, persevere. Persevere in the difficult times. Sometimes attacks come from the outside in our ministries. A couple years ago, our church went through quite a few attacks from the outside. Now, I'll be honest with you, our church is always getting attacked. And at this point, it's a little bit, we're like, whatever, you know. We'll start another bus route is what we'll do. And that's what we did. When that happened, we started a 3rd bus route. Kicked the devil right in the teeth. But sometimes you got attacks from the outside that you can't do anything about. People hate the bus ministry. People hate church. People, and they're not going to come out and say it. They're not going to say, we hate bus kids. We hate church. They're not going to say that. They're going to find something. They're going to attack you on that. Persevere. Remember, what you're doing is not for people. It's for God. Persevere. Keep on moving. When you don't see results, keep on working. Keep on working. God is so good. Right before our bus conference, we had a blessing. We have a couple bus kids that have been invested in our ministry for a couple years now. And actually all the kids are in our daycare as well. And they're pretty faithful to church. And Eva is the older girl's name. And she's 8, I think, 7 maybe. And she's been praying for her dad to come to church. She's been praying and asking him and inviting him and coming. And last year, during a Mother's Day, we had a big Sunday. And we had inflatables. We had a grand opening of one of our daycare locations. We had a lot of parents come. And I talked to several for a little bit. But there's this one man, his name was Scott, that I talked to for about 45 minutes. Did I change the world? I didn't. Did he get saved? He didn't. I just was talking to him. It was after the service. We had food and all kinds of stuff. And I was just talking to him. I was asking about how his job is. I was asking how he's doing, what he does. Just talking. I was just plodding. I had no future. I didn't know what he was going to do in the future. I didn't know if he was going to come back next week. I didn't have in my mind a preset idea of what was going to happen. I just was being faithful. That's all I was doing. It's not real hard to be faithful. You show up and you care for others. I was just talking to him. And that was it. This past Sunday, he came to church. He walked in the back door. And I was up on the platform when I saw him. And I came down. I shook his hand. And I already had that relationship built with him. I remembered who he was. He remembered who I was. And I was able to sit next to him in church. And I could see, as soon as he came to church, I could see he was broken. I know some difficult things that are happening in his life. And I could see he was searching, you know. And after the service, I was able to take him down to the invitation. I said, down to the altar, and I said, hey, man, I said, a lot of people come to church for different reasons. Sometimes because they want their life to be better, or they're broken. And I said, but nothing can get better if we don't first know where we're going to go when we die. This is the building block of Christianity. And I said, if you were to die today, are you 100% sure that you'd go to heaven? And in simplicity, he said, no. He wanted to know. And I said, I held the Bible up, and I said, if I could show you, and you could know, would you want to? And he said, yes. Sweetly, was able to go through the plan of salvation with him. And by the end of it, I took the Bible and I said, now, Scott, you understand everything that I said? And he said, yeah. I said, would you like to accept Christ into your heart? And with tears in his eyes, he said, yes. Just in simplicity. And he got saved. I don't know what the future going to hold with him. But I do know this. If I wasn't faithfully plodding before, I wouldn't have had that relationship with him. maybe you wouldn't have felt as welcome to be here. You don't know the seeds that you're sowing today in your bus ministry, what they will end up reaping someday. But if you give up because you don't see the results, Jesus is going to get in the boat. He's not going to get in the boat. And it's going to be too late because you do not persevere through the difficult times. Lastly, and I'll be done. Not only do we need to plod with prayer, plod with preparation, plod with perseverance, but we need to plod with passion. Plod with passion. Colossians chapter 3, verse 23, it says this, "And whatsoever ye do, do it heartily as to the Lord and not unto men." What does it say? Do it heartily. Now, it doesn't say do it hardly. It says the King James, we don't take nothing out of here. It says heartily. You know what that means? Put your heart into it. Do you know why you put your heart into things? Why that's even a saying? Because your heart's pretty important. Without your heart, you dead. So you better put your heart with passion into the bus ministry. I said a little bit about this earlier. I am so sick and tired of losing our generation. And I'm not talking about bus kids. Why is it that we have to bring in speakers? And why not just bring in, why are there preachers and bus captains that are all reached by the bus ministry? Where are Christian kids that grew up in a Christian home? What is going on? I'll tell you a secret, ready? It's not that hard. It's really not. I've watched my dad do it for years. It's really not that hard to raise good kids. Do you know what you just have to do? Live the book. That's all you got to do. Not be a hypocrite. Live it. That's all you got to do with passion. But we've got so many Christian kids, they ain't got no passion. There's nothing. Knock them on their head. There's nothing. Unless there's glowing light from a screen, you don't got their attention. Same goes with bus kids these days. It's difficult. It's difficult because they're used to the screens and nothing seems to interest them anymore. You know what's going to interest them? Your bus captain getting on the bus going crazy. Getting that fat suit on. Running around. You know, the speakers weren't even supposed to put on those fat suits. But I looked over and you know, I love Brother Wells. You know why? He has some passion. I didn't have to say nothing. I look over there. He's already got one foot in. He's like, woo! And you know what's even better is I looked over at Brother Arcan and Brother Bat. They're doing the same thing. Do you know what? You got to lose yourself in the bus ministry. You're not going to reach any kids if you don't have any passion. You know why? Because kids got passion. Kids are excited. Sometimes too excited. Right, Blake? Yeah. I was wrestling with him on the back of the bus this week. I was like, we'll kill you. It was more of like, I love you. Let's have fun. I'm going to kill him. You know. But you direct that passion by showing them a correct passion in the correct avenue. You can do great things for God. Blake, you'll be a great bus captain. Do you know why? Because you're crazy. And that's what you got to be a bus captain. You got to be nuts. You got to lose yourself in the bus ministry. I love Brother Perez last year. He was telling a story. I don't remember. He said something about eating a booger or something like that. I don't know what he's. Okay? I'm not saying you got to do that. Okay? But you better be willing. You better be willing to. This week on our bus route, we were trying to have big day, somewhat of a big day before the bus conference, and I told everyone we're going to go to a Fort Cody here in town. It's like a museum, and I said they've got crickets there, and they've got like salt and vinegar and barbecue and all these different ones. And I'm like, Brother Dave's going to eat a cricket. Yeah, and I said if we have 25, all the bus workers are going to eat cricket. Now, the bus workers, I think we're praying for 21 because that's what we had. But a good majority of the bus workers, you know what they did? They still ate one anyway. You know what you got to do? You got to be willing to do? It's not about you on that bus route. And I know some of the girls are like, trust me, my wife is like, I can't look at it. Suck it up, be a man. It's about souls. Swallow this cricket. You know, you got to be willing because you know what those kids need to see something they never seen before. And with the internet, that's hard to do. And you know what's happening? The opposite is happening. Christianity passion is not rising with the world's passion. It's dropping. That's why passionate preaching and passionate preachers are important today. I've watched so many live streams, so many preachers, and and they're good preachers, good, solid Bible preaching. But I fall asleep. And you wonder why we've got youth groups. None of them are on the bus routes. Of course we're going to lose them. They're not even reaching anybody else. First part of Christianity is give yourself for others. And if you're not even doing that, you're not going to know what serving Jesus is all about. You have no desire to. And there's so many gifts in the bus ministry, so many things that will invest in your heart that you will find that will keep you concreted in Christianity. But you know what's happening? Soft, quiet, intellectual messages. And our teenagers could care less for soft, quiet, intellectual messages. Because they're watching stuff on the internet that's keeping their attention. Everywhere they scroll, everything that they see is the devil saying, hey, look up here, look at this excitement. Look at what I've got for you. And they come to church, and we have got nothing for them. There's no passion. Where's the passion? So I know, trust me, I know it may not be your personality. Because I know. But you've got to be willing to lose yourself, and you've got to make yourself. Now, listen, I'm not telling you that every single Sunday you got to get up there and swallow a cricket, okay? Here's what I am telling you. You got to be exciting. You got to be exciting. Just be an exciting individual. When you sing bus songs, you can't just be, okay, I guess we're going to sing a bus song. Jesus loves. I know we sang this last week and the week before and the week before and the week before. And we had 2 kids on the bus. Jesus loves me. Okay, it's a great song. I get it. But come on, let's get something. There's some of these things called, they're carnal bus songs, okay? One of my favorites is, oh, I love chicken nuggets. They taste good with ranch, if you're on my bus. Does that have anything to do with Jesus? No, it's got nothing to do. But you know what it does? It shows them we can have passion. We can be exciting. I love chicken nuggets, and I love me some ranch. And those bus kids, every time I get to like, oh, I love ice cream. It tastes good with ranch. And all the bus kids are like, yeah. All the bus kids call me Sir Ranch-a-Lot. That's my name. We went so crazy on our bus, we had ranchicles one Sunday. They were disgusting. Don't do it, okay? Don't. I went to all the fast food joints, and I got a bunch of ranch packets. I put a popsicle stick in it, and I put it in the freezer. Okay? I'm telling you, it does something that's not supposed to happen. But I have fun, and the kids are like, I got to see that. And you know what else? The bus ministry, we're talking about plotting. It's not just about the big days, just have big days. You got to understand, you're giving memories to these kids. And these memories are connected to church. And someday when they fall, statistically, someday when they get out of church, because in all likelihood that may very well happen, and they go through their difficult times someday, they're going to be sitting in their head and saying, man, I remember the good times I had at church. I need help. You know where I'm going to go? I'm going to go back to church. But it doesn't happen if you only have fun on big days. Do you know what that means? It's not just about the big promotions. It's not just about the ranchicles and all those things. You got to be a fun individual. Do you know what I find? Just have fun with your kids. Build a relationship with them. Okay, a couple weeks ago it snowed. When I told you it snowed a bunch, you know what we did? We had Snowman Sunday. Now, it had just snowed, and it was like 4 degrees out. You really can't build a snowman. It just sort of, it's powder. But we went out there, and we started. I mean, bless our hearts, we tried. I don't know if you can still see it out there. There might be a little bit left, but it looked like just a mound. We just pounded a bunch of snow together and put 2 sticks in it, called it good. Looked like the poop emoji, to be honest. But you know what we did? Like, that's great. And then you know what happened? Because Brother Dave's not boring. I threw a snowball at somebody, and that was the end. Snowball fight. And then with the guys, we turned into a snowball fight. I mean, we were just like wrestling around in the snow. And there's a picture of me chasing the kids. I got snow all over my eyes. Ah! You know, I honestly wasn't trying to give the kids a good time. All right, I can care less the kids, okay? I was having a good time. I was like, yeah, little kid. And it's great. One of the video, I was rolling around in the snow, and I got up, and I started running. All the kids were looking at me because I had them all bury me in the snow. And I was like, once they got me all buried, I came out, and there's a video of me. I got out and I'm running around. There's this little kid running right next to me. I just push him in the snow, I'm like, It's great. I mean, you need to have fun. Have fun. The bus ministry is fun. I know there are times where it's not, but you need to have fun. If you're not having fun, the kids aren't going to have fun. If you don't bleed Twizzlers and sound like a humming diesel engine, you don't got no passion for the bus ministry. You're going to fail. You're going to be excited. You're going to be like, let's do this. And then you know what we did? That went so well. We had like a good amount. We had like 27 kids there. I was like, I don't even know where that happened. They enjoyed that. You know what we did? In a couple weeks, it snowed again. We did again. This time, I didn't say snowman. I said, we ain't doing it. Snowball fight is what we're doing. I made a couple kids cry. But they had fun. I had fun. You know what they learned? Brother David has passion. Brother David has fun. And this verse says, whatever you do, do it heartily. You don't have to have ice cream every Sunday. You don't have to promise Six Flags. You don't have to promise all the. Have fun with your kids. Then not only have fun with your kids when they're at church, spend some time with them outside of church. You want to make a difference in the bus ministry in the long run? Spend time with them outside of church. If you only spend time with them for 2, 3, 4 hours on Sunday, and that's it, think about how many hours they have during the week that they are swallowed up in the world and their devices and their friends. It's like a drop in the bucket. You're not making any difference. So you want to make a difference with them? Take them out to eat. Pick them up for church on Sunday night and Wednesday night. Tell them, hey, listen, we've got night bus. And trust me, it's a struggle. It's a struggle. We've got a lot more girls come to our night bus than the boys, and it's a struggle with boys. They're lethargic. They don't, I mean, it's hard to motivate them. I could put a Twinkie on a fishing pole right in front of them, and I don't think I could get them to come. Okay? It's just like, it's difficult. But you know what I do? I make fun. And I don't just have fun at church. When we're done with church, as a little reward, sometimes we'll go over to Casey's. We'll get some slushies or something. Get all of their parents mad at us for giving them candy before they go to bed. We just have fun outside of church. That's what you ought to do. Build a relationship with your kids. I love what he says. You know, I need to work on that, brother. I am decent with names once I get them down. Once I get them down, I usually can remember like years later. And it happens every once in a while. There'll be somebody come in my path that rode the bus like 10 years ago. And I don't know if it's the Holy Spirit or just because I'm good with the names. When it's like, I don't know, I remember their names. And they're light up. And they're like, yeah. But sometimes it takes me a while to get good at their names. Like a while. But you should know their names. Knowing their dogs' names and their cats' names and be invested in their life. They need to see that you've got a passion, not just while you're at church in their lives, but throughout their life. During the week. They have school, they have a soccer practice, they've got all of these things. Show up to one. Encourage them. Say, hey, make them tell their friends who that crazy guy who's running around out there is. We were washing the bus this Friday, and Zaven's that chunky kid, that one that got a question right in the answer or on the game last night, and he got to get in the cash cube. And yeah, he's super excited, but I mean, he's one of those kids where he only comes on the certain days. You got something, and it's real funny. Brother JT, he's his bus captain. He texted him a couple weeks ago, said, hey, I stopped at your house. Are you coming to church? He said, no, sorry, I'm not going to be able to make it. And Brother JT said something, well, I'm sorry, man, we're having cookies and everything. And he said, I suddenly had a change of mind. I'll be there tomorrow. It's great. It's great, right? But Zaven, we were washing the bus, and he was walking by right next to the car wash that we were at with his 3 friends, all teenagers. And I didn't just be like, I didn't do that. They said, Zaven! Hey, buddy! Ran over there. Like, what's up, man? He's just like, good. His friends are like, who's this guy? What's this quack doing? And I said, guys, Zaven goes to our church. And I mean, they were like shocked as all get out. Like, Zaven goes to church? I said, I know. I'm shocked too. And his friends, his friend said, does he cuss at church? Yeah, they said that. And I said, not around me, he doesn't. You should see Zaven's face. But you know what I did? I didn't give Zaven a hard time. Because out of those 4, he's the only one that comes. So you know what I said? Hey, Zaven, man, thanks for coming to church. I told him what we were doing on the bus, and I invited the other kids. One of them was a teenager that used to come when he was 6. And I said, hey, guys, you got to come back to it. They were not really interested. One of them was like, I like communism, so I'm not coming. Teenage boys. It's just like, what are you going to do? But you got to invest in him. But you know what I did? I made him acknowledge who I was. And I made him know that I cared about him. I was going to stop what I was doing, come over and talk to him. If you're not willing to put everything down at a certain point in your day to go minister to a bus kid, you're not going to applaud. you're not going to build anything. Because this fun that we're having, this bus conference, this spiritual high and mountain that we're on is not going to be here in 3 weeks. And if you're not going to get this down and plod faithfully, those little days will become minuscule days. And then those minuscule days will become no days at all. The reason the bus ministry dies is because we don't learn how to plod. The little days are just as important as the big days, so we better start treating them. Start treating those little days just like the big days. Plod on, plod on, plod on. Just like the disciples, row, row, row. Don't stop rowing, because at any moment, Jesus could show up and do something amazing. You know, a man could get saved, a father could get saved, bus kid family could get in church. There's some bus kids back here, old bus kids, and a mom who are now invested in our church, part of our church, even reaching others now because we were faithful. It didn't happen overnight. It took years. Plodding, plodding, plodding. But if you quit, if you stop, you are cutting off the future of many of those little kids and those families. And Jesus is right there. He wants to step in the boat, but he's not going to be able to if we stop rowing. If we show him, what's the worth? So, number one, plod with prayer, plod with preparation, plod with perseverance, and plod with passion. Let's pray. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for the day that you've given to us. I pray that you would help us to remember the truths of this message, Lord, not to remember Brother David, not to remember my funny stories or the things that I've said, but, Lord, to remember the truth. Lord, when the lights are off, when the crowd goes home, when there's no more promotion, no more excitement, the choir stops singing, and we're all alone, I pray that you would help us to plod on. Help us just to persevere. Lord, I pray that the bus ministry would be something that's important on our heart and on our life. And no matter how difficult it is when we go home, whatever the mountain that we've got to climb is, Lord, I pray that you give us the strength to do it. Not just on the big days, but all of those little days in between. Thank you so much for the opportunity to be invested and be involved in the bus ministry. What an opportunity, Lord. Thank you so much to be able to invest in the lives of others. Pray that you bless us as we leave here. In your name, amen.